We're going to get started right on time. I would like to call to order the Wednesday, May 13, 2026, FY 26-27 Budget Workshop number 1. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Ramirez, Mr. Riddle,
Present.
Mr. McBride,
Present.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Lensing, Ms. Fabian,
Present.
President Rodriguez.
Here. Okay, we do have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes, going back a way,
Yes.
for the August 5th, 2025 Budget Workshop number 3. I think you've all recently gotten the meeting minutes. You've had a chance to review them.
Yep. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Riddle.
Second.
Second by Ms. Hannah. Are there any comments, corrections, changes to the minutes? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
I don't think that was good.
Ms. Ramirez, Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah, Ms. Lensing, Ms. Fabian,
Yes.
and President Rodriguez.
Yes. Okay, minutes are approved, and for the record, Ms. Lensing entered the meeting at 6:01. And we don't have it on the agenda for opportunity for public comment, but I'm going to just ask, I know this is going to be a workshop, and any public are going to be allowed to participate, but is there anybody here that wants to address the board on any matter, whether it's on the agenda or not? No? Okay. Then, in that case, we're going to move on to item 4, reports and presentations. Who is coming up to present? I should have known, Ms. Polk.
Right.
After 6, though. Good evening, board president, board members, superintendent, colleagues, and community members. Tonight is our first budget workshop, and we want to provide information to you related to where we are financially and what the superintendent's recommendations are to the Board of Education related to the district's financial health. Next slide, please. Tonight, we're going to talk about, do the next one. Okay, we're going to talk about what the superintendent's executive summary is. We're going to look at the budget calendar, student population, the staff within the district, what our revenues are, what our expenditures are, and then what our budget forecast is. And then we'll open the floor up for whatever questions you might have. With this executive summary, you will note here that the budget that we are presenting tonight is going to outline the financial plan that we're projecting for FY 27. And it's really a budget that we're projecting going to sustain the district through the end of FY 27. We know that the beginning fund balance for 27 is fluid because we're in the midst of FY 26. And so that number is contingent upon where we land at the end of this fiscal year. But as of today, and based on what we're projecting the revenues to be through June 30th, and what the expenditures are projected to be through June 30th, we're looking at a proposed budget based upon the request that we received of $326.44 million across all 9 of the funds. And in the education fund alone, we're looking at, of that $326.44 million, 268 million of it is in the education fund. And that's not odd because the education fund houses most of the expenses in the district. On this same slide, you'll see that according to Mr. Christensen, the student population is projected to be 12,665 from pre-K to 12, and our staff is projected to be 2,638. And the staff projection does not include any attritions. It's basically the staff, that numbers that we pulled as of the date of me pulling this report, so it was as of this month. So the assumption is, assuming that the staff remain level, and we know that that's likely not going to happen because some people are going to leave and some people are going to be hired, but we need a base number. So we used the count as of the time I pulled this information. Next slide, please. We always provide to the Board of Education and the community the budget calendar. By statute, we have to adopt the budget no later than the end of September, but it's customary for us to present the budget at the start of September. So in case we have to make some changes, we have time to do it before the end of September. And you'll see that we have on here Budget Workshop 1, we have 2, 3, and then the public inspection period by statute has to be 30 days. And so we have that. It's going to be on public inspection from the 7th of August through the date that we're projected to present to the Board of Education for budget adoption. Next slide, please. So this information, I don't see Mr. Christensen in here, but this information came directly from his projections. You'll see the numbers, the projected count for preschool, elementary, middle school, and the high school. And that's where it came up with the 12,665. And based upon his projections from FY, the current fiscal year, going into next fiscal year, you'll see he's projecting that it's going to be a reduction of 2.29%. And the changes at each of those levels is to the right of the number. Next slide, please. Next. Okay. Next slide, please. So staff population. Go back. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so we went into, this is not from the report card. These numbers are from the district's financial system based upon how many staff we are paying and how many teachers we are paying. So the teachers here doesn't reflect only classroom teachers, but it's any person or any job class that's a part of the teachers union. So it could be nurses, it could be counselors, it could be social workers, and the classroom teachers. Okay, so 1,214 are those that are a part of the teachers union. And then total staff, as of the time that this report was pulled, we have 2,638 staff members. This includes floaters, so it could be part-time individuals and the like. But this is the FTE total that we have active, filled in our financial system. And so we gave you a breakdown at the bottom of specific job classes, so you can kind of look at those to see how many in each of those job classes.
Wait. Can we hold questions, please, until after this presentation?
Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are we projecting? Revenue right now is so uncertain. And this is not necessarily anything that's Waukegan's doing. This is just what it is. We just don't know what is going to happen. And from year to year, we explain to the board that we don't even know what state aid is going to be until well into the fiscal year, after we have to adopt the budget. And again, we have to adopt the budget by the end of September, and we don't normally get our evidence-based funding, which is a major source for us, what that is going to be until October, the latter part of September, October. So a lot of this is projections. So the projection that we use for evidence-based funding related to what the governor asked for. And the governor had asked for, I think, 3.2%, so we went up 3.2%. But remember, even when we look out there on ISB's website and we see that the district gets a certain amount of money, because Learn Charter School is within our school district boundaries, they take the money right off the top. It doesn't even come to us. In the past few years, we've been giving them about $7 million over the year. So just think about that. We're giving Learn Charter School of our evidence-based funding allocation about $7 million over the course of a year. Again, we want to stress that one of the other largest revenue streams for us is property taxes. So we don't want to belabor that, but the reality of it is we've presented to you before as a result of keeping the taxes level over the past years, not this year when we levied, we're still going to see reduced revenues because we'll never regain that base, all right? So that's just going to compound year after year. But I'm glad that we were able to increase the taxes to the maximum level this past levy period. So based upon that, and based upon where the needs are, you'll see the projected revenue and the various funds, and the largest obviously being an education fund. And so you'll see 10 and 11. 10 and 11 is still the education fund, but internally we wanted to separate the grants or categorical aid from the regular local sources. So that's why you'll see 10. 10 is the regular local sources, and then 11 were the grants or categorical aid, right? But it's all by ISB, it's all Fund 10, all right? So you'll see that makes up the larger part of $249 million rounded. So overall, we're projecting about $287 million, okay, across all 9 funds. But what I want to point out to you, all right, what measures the health of our district? What funds measure the health of our district? The education fund, the O&M fund, the transportation fund, and the working cash fund, okay? So when we levy, the statute changed just recently that would allow us, if we wanted to put all of our property taxes in the education fund. But we know that that's not really going to make a lot of sense because we know that we have expenses that's going to come up in operation and maintenance, expenses that's going to come up in transportation, right? And we know that there's going to be expenses in the TART fund and all of those other funds. So what we do, we put the majority of the money in the education fund, but we put a reasonable amount in those other funds to pay the bills that we know that we have to pay. But our concentration is on those funds that I just told you. There's no expenses that comes out of the working cash fund, so we put a nominal amount in there. That's our bank account. And I'm just trying to go, that's our bank account, so we don't have to go out. So the working cash fund can loan money to the education fund, the O&M fund, and the transportation. So that's our bank. We don't have to go out and loan from the bank because we're borrowing from ourselves, all right? And you'll see why I mentioned that. Next slide, please. One of the things that we've often said too, that in my office and the business and finance office, it's not all about a budget. We have to also make sure our cash levels are okay. At one time, and that hasn't been of late, but at one time, we weren't getting the revenue sources in time. So we had to go out to the bank, and this was when I first got here early on. We had to go out to the bank and get a loan because our money didn't come in on time, just so we could make payroll. We haven't had to do that at all. So what we've done is that resolution that you all just approved last night, that's what that was for. I had to have authorization to be able to loan money to the education fund, loan money to operations and maintenance, loan money to transportation, so that if we get behind in terms of cash receipts, we could just temporarily loan it and then move it back. But I had to have authority in order to be able to do that, okay? So for expenditures, education fund, 10 and 11, grants and regular local, you'll see the expenditures are 268, and it's larger than the others. And overall, 326. 326, okay? So if you go back to the other slide, just prior. You see the revenue is 286, or 287, I'm rounding, right? 287. Go to the slide we just had, 326, okay? So we have been successful because in all of the past years, the district has done a fantastic job in managing the expenditures and making sure that our cash reserves, as some people call it, but I call it cash balances, were good. And we were making sure that we capitalize or maximize revenue that fell in our laps or coffer. For instance, the ARA money and then the ESSER money. So we made sure that we did not put reoccurring expenses in those sources so that we could make financial decisions that we could live with, right? Because that's one of the things we said. We didn't want to put, all of these positions in this money, because when the money went away, guess what? You didn't have money to pay the position. So we wanted to put one-time payments in there, focus on those things, so that when the money dried up, we would have the ability to pivot, okay? So this is the time that we have to make the pivot. We got $84 million in. We did wonderful things, great things, We were able to do things that we otherwise would not have been able to do. So now we have to make the adjustments, some of which we have started to do, okay? Because we're not unlike other school districts. School districts across the country are having to make adjustments. It's, you get $84 million, you have to adjust again because the money is not there. And we've spoken about this over and over again about the ESSER cliff, okay? So that's what we're talking about tonight, and we've been talking about that over the course of the last couple of years. Next slide, please. So, non-compensation expenditures, what were the requests from ASAP? What were the requests from the schools? And what were the requests from operations? We were showing you here. This does not include regular salaries. It does not include supplementals. It does not include any extra pays. None of that. These are only contractual obligations, operating expenses, and those type things. So you'll see that ASAP, including grants, so local and grants, right? They requested $36.6 million, okay? Present, I think I have those things linked. If I don't, contact the superintendent and we'll make sure that we give you the details because we have the details behind these numbers, okay? And then the schools with comparability. The state doesn't tell us how much we have to give per student, but it has to be equitable. Now, I have my own opinion about that because and I'm going to voice my opinion, okay? Because we say that we have to address the needs of individual schools, but yet we have to give equal amounts to the schools. So, but the state forces us to give equal amounts within a 10% range to the schools. All right, so that's what we have to do because we're a title school district. All right, it doesn't tell us how much that has to be per student, but they tell us we have to be within certain ranges based upon enrollment. Okay, so then we know that we have to support the schools. These are not these are districts. So you see the second line for schools, and we say targeted supports. Those are the supports that would come out of ASAP to support the schools. So we put that on a separate line. So for those schools that requested additional supports through the district, that would be the 1.6, okay? Then operations, and then the other, like the superintendent's board of education, chief of staff, those type things are in the other. So overall, it was 60 million that was requested in those areas. Next slide, please. Okay, so salaries, regular, and I try to include in here each year how much do we believe that we're going to reduce the regular salaries by basic attrition. High price retiring, lower price coming in, sorry. So each year I estimate between $1.2, $1.4 million in savings due to those type things, okay? Then we put on here the higher of the other cost. I want to point out that some of these costs were higher in previous years, but they've been the focus of the superintendent. For sure, absent para pay, so there's been a huge reduction in that area. And then out of building subs, you'll see that that's almost 3 million, okay? Special ed workload, that's 730, and then other cost is about $7.8 million. And I want to point out that the superintendent has asked the deputies as well as my office to review some of these stipends and extra pays. Total compensation, we're looking at $178.7 million. That's a significant part of that 268. You see where salaries make up the majority of the cost within the organization. Next slide, please. So this slide really tells the story. You'll see that education, O&M, debt, transportation on this page, and then on the next pages you'll see. This is the projected beginning balance, meaning what we're ending 26 projected. Again, that's very fluid. We don't know what that's going to be, but we did a projection based on historical trends. So we're believing that these are going to be very close to what the beginning fund balances is going to be. What we believe the surplus or deficit is going to be based upon the revenue we're projecting in that prior slide, the revenue we're projected minus the expenditures, and this is the variance. So for instance, in the education fund, we're believing that we're going to be at a deficit of $19.6 million, leaving a ending fund balance of $8.9 million. Now, let me say this. What we are assuming here is that everything that was asked would be spent. Does that happen all the time? No, it doesn't. So that's why it's important for us throughout the year to monitor spending. Monitor spending. And we meet with the superintendent so that we could say, okay, we might need to look at this or we might need to look at that and make some adjustments because our spending level is too high or our spending level is too low, but it's probably going to be too high. And so we'll have to make the appropriate reductions. And so you'll see across the funds here what we're looking at. Deficit of 2.7 in O&M, the debt service, a surplus, and transportation 2.5. And those are the projected ending fund balance. Next slide. This is just a continuation here. IMRF, capital projects, working cash, TART, and life safety. Just so you know, as I said before, the working cash fund doesn't house any expenditures in it. It's just like a bank account. Inside of the working cash fund balance of 42 million, there's $13 million that's sitting in there. That's the balance of that $30 million bond. Okay, so just remember, and that money has to be spent in 3 to 5 years, and we're into the second year. So that 13 million is going to have to come out of there. So right now, it's helping our financial health, but at some point, that has to come out because we have to spend it. Another thing I want to point out is that the life safety fund, we have to make sure that the fund balance in the life safety fund doesn't grow. Because there's 2 funds that we're challenged legally with, often, if not annually, and that is the TART fund and the life safety. The TART fund, we have to make sure that all of the proper cost is booked in that fund. And then with the life safety, the challenges have been related to a large fund balance. So we have to make sure that we're balancing all of that annually. So overall, we're projecting that the district's fund balance of $37.5 million at the end of 27, and that's if we spend everything that was requested. Has that happened each year? No. But from a budgetary perspective, it has been, it continues to be the position of the business office and the recommendation to the superintendent that we operate as though it's spent. Okay, so that the decisions that are made relative to the budget is made through those lenses. Okay? Next slide, please. Now we're open to questions if there are any.
Break. Go back to grant slide.
Which one?
Grant.
So let's kind of thought through them so we can see which one you're referring to.
It was maybe number 7, 8, and you were talking about 10, Fund 10 and 11
Okay.
was with grants. And the
Okay. The
category-
revenue or the expenditures?
Actually, both.
Okay. All right. So that one, district revenues.
Okay, and
Okay.
so do we have a number specific for Fund 11? And I'm presuming Fund 11 are the grants.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is the specific amount for grants that we get in the district?
Okay, so I have that obviously in my calculation sheet. I did not provide that here, and so I'll give you an estimate of how much we get in grants. Typically, we get between $28 to $34 million in grant revenue annually.
And we can get you that specific number
Yes.
tomorrow. I did write down that question, Miss Hannah.
And are these the numbers that you're listing here? Are these the numbers for FY 27, 28, or 26, 27?
26, 27.
So we haven't did anything for 27, 28.
Not in the presentation tonight because our focus was on where we were going to be at the end of 27.
Okay, and now, this is when you were talking about the reoccurring debts
Yes.
and that nothing was in there of reoccurring debts from the ESSER.
Okay. So what we said when we had the ESSER money, we focused on not placing reoccurring expenditures in the ESSER money to prevent overspending. So, for instance, a position, that was the example that I gave. We made sure that we didn't create a position and pay it from ESSER money. Because once the ESSER money dried up, we wouldn't have the ability to pay that position. So what we did, contractuals, that was a one-time payment, or purchases that were one-time payments, like Chromebooks, stuff like that, that's what we put in the ESSER money,
Okay, what I am confused about
Okay.
and have been confused about is the fact that I don't know where it came from, whether it was the ESSER money or whether it was the local money. Okay? When we did the teacher's contract for that historical amount of money, where did that money come from?
Some of it comes from grants because we pay. Some of it comes from grants because some salaries are housed in grants, and some of it comes from local.
So,
Okay, so let
Do you
me
mind if I repeat what I'm
unpack that,
So
if I
repeat it.
can. Let me kind of unpack that. So my statement stands that some salaries are paid out of grants and some salaries are paid out of local, okay? So when we consider the availability of resources, we consider both grants and local and our ability to be able to do that. So when we made the recommendation to the superintendent and the superintendent made that recommendation to the Board of Education, we made a statement, and it was a pointed statement. We said, if the Board of Education wants to give this increase, then an adjustment likely will have to happen some other place.
okay, that's not answering my question.
Let me rephrase to see if this helps. So
Yes.
when we had access to the ESSER funding,
Yes.
that relieved the strain on other funds that we have available for that period of time.
Only
So-
for that period of time.
Only for that period of
That
time
is
because
correct.
it is a limited thing.
Yes.
So instead of using funds from one of our buckets
Yes.
that we have on the screen here,
Yes.
we were able to leverage the ESSER funding
That is
via
correct.
that. And so because there's less strain on those accounts, we were able to access those funds in our accounts in a different way.
That is correct.
Hence applying, or I don't even want to say awarding, because in my mind, it's very much deserved, the teacher pay increase.
Yes, yes, but that was a consideration, and I'm very careful about what I'm saying.
Yes.
Because we had to consider that ESSER was going to come to an end.
Yes.
So you couldn't make a decision like that, say you're going to save money because of ESSER, and knowing that the salaries for the teachers was going to go, not only the teachers, I don't want to just call the teachers out, whatever the salaries were going to continue. So I'm really reluctant
Okay.
to say it like that. But what I will say is that a consideration was made about the availability of funds based upon our ending fund balance and projections, right? And so the reason why I said I wanted to unpack it, let's go back to 2014, okay? I have to go, you asked me the question,
Right, but the only thing I want to know is you talked about we don't have reoccurring debts.
that is correct.
Okay, but we do. Because that
Indirect.
historical increase,
Yes,
that's going to be, as you talk about compounding,
that is correct.
it's a reoccurring debt.
That is correct.
And I'm still not hearing where the money came from.
The money came from existing fund reserves and our fund balances and projections.
Okay, let me finish my question. What does it mean, non-compensation?
Purchase services, supplies, equipment, those type things.
Okay, and okay, yeah, that was thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Slide 9. And slide 10, please. And now you gave these descriptions. You say regular what?
Oh, that's normal salaries, base salaries.
Okay, with all of these things that are right here.
Yeah,
The attrition,
those are
sub-item.
separate lines.
Right,
Yes. So just the salary, regular salaries would be on that regular line. And then attrition, I'm accounting for people who leave, right? Who had the higher salaries, and then we hire people who have lower salaries. That might account for a reduction of about 1.4 million.
and we are spending just about $8 million in stipends, longevity pay, overtime, sub in buildings, athletics, and whatever, et cetera.
Yeah, other supplemental, yes. But those are the major areas.
Okay, and so now you got sub out of building for just about 3 million.
Yes, ma'am.
And sub in building, that is extra pay
Yes, ma'am.
for somebody?
Yeah, like six period class and 7th period class, is that, yeah. Or if they take individuals from another classroom, then they get paid for the extra people that are in their class. That's contractual language.
Yeah,
Yeah, extra students.
So if a teacher's absent and another teacher covers
Yeah,
the
I'm
class,
aware.
it's gonna- Okay.
and then can I see slide 12? Now, all of these reds,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? Now, are we carrying these deficits into the next school year?
It would be the far right column. The third column is the change projected from from the beginning of 27 to the end of 27. So for instance, the 1,030,128, in the current year, we have a certain amount of revenue coming in, a certain amount of expenditures we're projecting. And so we're saying that the reserves or the cash balance that came in 27 is going to go down by that 1 million. You often hear us say, overall, we're not deficit, but we're deficit in the current year.
Right.
Yeah, that's what that means.
And does that deficit compound? year after year?
Not necessarily, it all depends on what our expenditures are. And that's determined by the superintendent ultimately with the assistance of the business office, the deputies, and others, leaders.
Yeah. I'm sorry, board, but this is the disadvantage of us not being able to ask questions during the presentation. But I'm done.
So I want to go back to the student projected population first. And I just want to make clear for the community. So charter schools, we lose some of our funding for that. So that goes to Learn Charter, right, for those students enrolled. For Cristo Rey, since that's a private school, my understanding is they don't get access to our public funding.
They get access to grants.
To grants?
Yes, a portion of our
Okay,
non-public.
so then why aren't we listing that?
Listing it how?
So we talk about Learn Charter School and
Yes.
in the enrollment by grade and cohort attachment that we have.
Yes.
We specifically call out Learn and the number of students. We're not talking anything about Cristo Rey.
No, because this number, the 12,665,
Yeah.
are those students that are projected to attend Waukegan Public Schools. It doesn't include Learn, Enrollment, or Cristo Rey, or any of them. That's our students.
I understand that, but in the far right column,
Yes.
we have for each year
So-
enrollment. I'm looking at the attachment,
Yeah, I was going to
not
say,
in
so
here.
maybe if he can pull up the attachment, so you guys are looking at the same thing. So the
Okay.
spreadsheet that I'm assuming Mr. Christensen
Yes.
created that shows
Yeah.
all the school years.
So I think the clarification I would like is just having
It's in the
that
agenda.
anytime funding is going to a different school,
Mm-hmm.
if we're calling out the charter, we should also make it for Cristo Rey as well or any other.
Okay, but I could assure you
Hold on.
that if
I
No, the other one.
understand.
The other one.
if I,
ahead.
the non-public schools
Mm-hmm.
are not getting any of our evidence-based funding.
Correct.
They're getting 10,000, 20,000 in title grants
Yeah.
and other grants. So it's not the same as $7 million
Okay.
dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fair, but I think
You
we
still
should
would like to
be
know how
aware,
much. Yeah, I
right?
get it.
Because those
Yeah.
are funds.
Yeah.
I think one of the frustrations that I have when we talk about student enrollment, there are factors that we do not have control over. We need to focus on the levers we can pull on to keep our students in district. So I think that's a takeaway for the superintendent is to identify what are those levers. We can't obviously go out, I don't want to go out and say, hey, people have more babies. That's highly irresponsible. But I do want to create an environment where Waukegan Public Schools is a school of choice for our local families. That's what I want. So I want to know what are those levers and how are we targeting those levers, because I think our teachers are great. I think our schools are great. Do we need extra supports? Of course we do. But we all should understand why that happened. But this student population drives how much money we get into this district to be able to provide for each and every student in our schools. So that's just a takeaway that I want to talk about. And again, I understand there are levers we have no control over. I don't want to talk about those. When we look at the working cash fund, my understanding is that's where we have our investments growing. That's where we're investing in trying to build, or is that inaccurate? So what fund, like where do our investments happen?
So what we could say that it's coming out of the working cash fund, but we're looking at what is sitting in the bank.
Yeah, okay.
And so that's what we're investing. We could say it's the working cash, but it's what available resources. We don't really separate it like that in
Yeah.
terms of what we're investing. We just took the $10 million out of what was available and then invested it.
Yep.
But we're keeping track of what the ending fund balances are for each of the funds.
Okay. And then I have two more pieces. So when we talk about these ending balances and we don't always spend what we budget, I want to see the data of this was our budget and this is where we landed, and I want it year to year, right? Because I want to know how much under are we trending across multiple years to have that picture, right? Because I'm not going to go there, but I just don't think it needs to be said. We don't necessarily get direct information of like, here's what we approved, here's what we spended, this is what gets recouped back into the bank, unless I'm not seeing that information anywhere. So when we do the budget forecast, if that can be baked into that for future budget workshops, that would be helpful for me.
We can, but the treasurer's reports that we're presenting,
Yeah.
it has all of that information.
But it's not trending year to year. It's not
No,
giving
it's
us that
not
high
showing.
level. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just showing you what the spending levels are and what the remaining cash balance is. But
Yeah.
we could do across, 3 years? The
we do
current year
5?
and 2 years back? 5 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be done for this budget workshop.
Thank you
I
very
think
much.
Yeah, of course. I think going forward, just
Yeah.
that could be a helpful tool. The
Yeah.
last thing I wanted to talk about was, can we go to the slide with the salaries and compensations? Because when the one before. There you are. You're good. So when we start looking at this other category in stipends and a couple of other these pieces, this right here, projected expenditures, is close to 8 million. My concern is when we start looking at individuals who are close to retiring and they have their pension and they are close to exceeding that 6%. And so we as a district are potentially penalized because they've gone over that 6% threshold. This Hannah's shaking her head, so maybe I'm mistaken. But do we have monitoring in place to mitigate against that?
Yes, Mr. Luosa is looking periodically, at least a quarter, at who's approaching that, because it's not just the salary, right? We look at total compensation, so any overtime or whatever, is comparing that from year to year. And then I believe, I don't want to speak for you, you're sending that report to HR. HR is then notifying the principals that they need to watch that person for overtime. And the contract, we were intentional in putting that language in the contract some years ago, that once they approach that threshold, then they stop getting the additional pay.
And if I could.
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, if I could interject, I had asked legal to look into that 6% law, and if it had, if there had been something different that they had did with that, because I read a statute that in the new legislation that they were not
Yeah,
going to be penalizing
yep.
school districts anymore with that 6%. I don't know. I'm
I kind
asking.
of heard that as well, but I've not seen anything concrete. So we're operating as though it is still in place.
We will get that answer for the.
Kathy has her.
So
Look at it.
I have not had a chance to look at that question yet directly, Mrs. Hannah, but I can share. When I was at the in-house council meeting for the Illinois Association of School Boards on Friday, that bill was not highlighted. So it suggests to me if it was out there, it's not moving forward, but I will confirm that.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I have a question here. I'm a person that likes to balance my budget and stay, I don't like to borrow money, because it ends up costing me, interest. And I notice here that our revenue, if you took this to a business or an account, our district revenue projected is 286 million, 286.7 million, but our expenditures on the next slide was down to 326.7 million, and that left a difference of 39.7 million, and that has to come from somewhere. Either we borrow it or we take it from savings. Am I correct?
You're correct.
Okay, so I believe we did, so that's the projection for this next year, as I'm looking at just that figure. And I believe that last year, we did the same thing. We have, because we have savings, we had approximately 100 million in savings prior to the start of this school year that we're currently in, but we spent about 39.7 million over what we brought in. So that's reduced our savings. And then if we spend, again, 39.7 million for this next year, we'll be down to another 30-some million, and that's all we'll have left. And that definitely concerns me, because if I was managing my own account and I had a business, and I was spending, I wouldn't stay in business very long if my revenue was less than my expenditures every year. I'd be out of business in one more year because I wouldn't have any savings left. That's really concerning to me, and I know that at the start of this year, we talked about carrying things over. Because we had so much in savings, we were going to go ahead and keep everything the same this current year and use savings that we had, which is great. We had savings. But I'd like to know what we're taking, what kind of efforts we're taking to keep our expenditures down so that we don't eat up our savings. I noticed this year we did reduce some administrative costs, but when I asked the question about how much we actually saved by that, I was told for next year it would probably be less than $500,000. So our reduction in administrative overhead, if you will, or reducing administrative positions is saving us less than $500,000. To me, that doesn't seem sufficient, because in another year, we're not going to have any savings left. In 2 years down the road, if you will, we're not going to have any savings left. We're not going to have any savings to operate. So it's really disturbing to me, and I'm wondering in this budget, where are we showing some savings? Because looking at the figure again I think you get my point. 37, it's a whole lot of money. Like I said, where are we saving money so that we will definitely be able to continue to pay our bills and continue to have a functioning school district? Yes, I guess that's a bit broad question, but I don't see it here.
I don't think you would see it here, but behind the scenes, the superintendent, and I don't want to misquote, but the superintendent is working to make necessary adjustments. And in the near future, I'm sure she's going to present something to the Board of Education on what that plan of action is. What we did say at the last time we did the financial update or transparency presentation for the board, we said that we're poised to pivot, right?
Right.
And so that plan right now hasn't been solidified, but behind the scenes, there are discussions happening about how we're going to address this projected balance.
Okay, but my concern, Ms. Polk, is that what we're projecting here is some budget meetings coming up, and I wrote those down. I'm just wondering where I wrote them down. But there's only a couple of them left before September, and then we have to approve the budget. And so my concern as a board member is, when are we going to get that information? Because right now we're running, you can say it's not a deficit budget because we have savings, but in a sense, we're drawing down our savings very rapidly.
Absolutely.
And that's big concern for me. And I wouldn't want to go into a deficit reduction plan in another year where we'd have to tell ISB how we are going to pay our bills. We're going to have such a small amount of money, less than 3 months, less than 3 months operating expenses in our savings, we're going to have to show, am I correct? We're going to have to show how we can continue to function.
If we don't pivot, but I'm optimistic that we are, because I'm really happy that the superintendent and administration is forthright in presenting this information to you and showing you the challenges that Waukegan is experiencing, as well as the challenges that school districts across the country at this moment are experiencing.
Right.
Because all of us, it's been in the newspaper, been on TV, been on the radio, about, you lose $80 million.
Right.
And there are interventions that has happened since COVID, right? And so now the very difficult discussions have to happen, not only at Waukegan, and I keep saying that, but difficult discussions have to happen to say, these are all of the needs that we have.
Right. Right.
But which of those, just like you expressed earlier, which of these are we going to make a priority?
Right. It seems to me we're, respectfully, it seems we're running out of a little time. If I had a business with my wife and we were running a deficit this year, and I said, honey, you just have to understand that, I'm going to make some changes here. Maybe things are going to get better. Maybe we're going to make some more money, but we're not going to continue to eat into our savings. But then the year is almost up, a year's going by, and I say, honey, we have to continue. We're going to spend again some deficit. We're going to do some borrowing from our savings. She's going to say, what did you do this past year? I thought you said you were going to do something to reduce your savings. I mean, to at least reduce your deficits, that if our expenditures weren't continuing to grow. And so I'm wondering what's actually happened this past year, except for this small projected savings of less than $500,000. And do we have time to pivot before this budget is due in September? That's my big concern.
Yes.
I guess I'd like to, other board members to
I
see
can-
if they
I
are
can-
concerned about that.
You and Honey gonna
I
have to
got
come
I
back.
can, I can jump in. So you're absolutely right, Mr. Riddle. We have looked at administration. We've cut costs with food this year. We're cutting costs more with food. We've cut costs in overtime with operations that you're not seeing here. There are future plans. What I have to say, the foundation of this is not shocking the system to where it spreads panic and causes confusion. So there's multiple layers that we're looking at, not engaging in, for lack of a better word, some contracts. What I can say is that I hear your request, and I'm looking at Kathy right now, and I can work with the board president to set up a meeting where we can walk you through some of the discussions and show you exactly where we're looking at pulling this money from and where we're going to support it at. I don't know if that could be a closed session meeting or an open. It would be with personnel, but I will work with the board president to get that set up within the next week to week and a half, where we will show you exactly what our plan is. And you will see how that money is going to drop. I don't want to state it here right now because I'm not trying to spread panic. But if the board president will agree, we can set up and we can show you the formalized plan on where we're getting this and why we're saying that we're going to be okay. However, that all can shift based on the federal government, the state. Like, there's some variables out there we cannot control.
Right, right. One of the questions, Superintendent, I was concerned about is the 1% that, sales tax. That was a good revenue stream that could help us out, but that's not going to help for this next year.
No.
And it's, if indeed it passes, we still wouldn't get it until the end of the year, this next year. And, and so it's a shot, it's a long shot. And I guess I don't like to gamble. I'm not a gambling person. So,
That's fair.
and we heard from Ms. Hennessy that most districts don't even get that approved the first time they go out for it. So it could be several years down the road before we could even look at that. We can't figure that or hang on to that as something that we can definitely use
And we're
Next
not.
year, yes.
We're just, we know that that's a possibility. So every possibility out there, we're going for. There's also a
Right.
grant that we're looking at with the federal government that we're going to go for.
Yes.
And is up to millions of dollars. It
Right.
could be 500, but we're going to go for the millions.
Right.
And so there's a lot of that, but there's also stuff internally that we can change the practice of how we're doing it so that the cost is not where it is now. And those are the things we're also looking at internally.
Okay.
Flexible scheduling, right? So that we cover costs and overtime. Just a number of areas. And I'm being cautious in speaking because I don't want to spread panic with our staff because we're not there yet. Right now, we're good for next year. I understand you're
Right.
looking at that 27, 28 year. I
right,
understand that, right? So I want to keep everything in perspective. So teachers are watching, et cetera. We know that, and we have a plan on where we're going to pull those monies from or where we're going to cut back. Or as some initiatives, what we don't want to do, and I've told the board before, and I want to tell our families, is we're working really hard not to cut direct services to children.
Right.
And I'm talking about teaching, I'm talking about sports and stuff like that. But there are other areas where we can look to, where we can pull back some or move some of those things that we're doing in other areas so we don't have duplication of services.
Right.
We talked about enrollment at schools. Do we need to have 23, there's a
Right.
lot of conversations going on.
Right, and there is a lot of things, and I definitely congratulate you and the staff for, that you're looking at this. It's just that the board has not been told exactly what actions we're going to be taking. And I know there's a lot of things you can do, and we certainly do not want to spread panic because we do have a lot of reserves. And our district has been financially strong for many years, and we congratulate our financial department for that. But again, the board needs to hear, because come September, we do need to approve a budget, and I think being fiscally responsible for our district's spending, I wouldn't want to, in a year's time, come to a fiscal cliff where we have to take some drastic action.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
we are hearing you. I will work with the board president to see if we can get a consensus on a meeting within the next 2 weeks, so that we can walk you through what we're talking about, some of the ideas that we have, some of the things we're moving on now, some of the cuts that we're not actually doing for the upcoming school year, for the next coming school year. So we will work with the board president to set a date on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mears. Oh,
Thank you.
Okay. What is the dollar amount that we have right now and in our reserve, and for how long is that money going to sustain the district?
Okay, that's a very difficult question to answer, but I will answer the first part.
Well,
Because I'm reluctant to give specific answers when there are so many variances, right? So right now, the last time I looked at this across the funds, we had upwards of 73 to 74 million dollars that was in the bank.
and
Okay.
that's in reserve.
That's in the bank. That's our cash. Having paid the bills at that moment, you could always look at what our fiscal health is by looking at that treasurer's report. We are very intentional, and we made sure that we created a report for you that shows you what is the cash balance in the funds and where we loan the money from. So if you look at it, it'll show you the bank balances in the middle of that treasurer's report, and at the bottom, it'll show you where we loan money from in order to make sure that it was zero if it was a negative number. So that's important for you to look at to see what the health is. So again, the last time I looked at this, and I look at it quite often, trust me, we had about 73 to 75 million dollars in the bank. Now,
So how?
there's some intentional moves, and I've shared this before. There's some intentional moves that we have so that it would trigger, if I'm not looking at it, it would trigger me to know that there's a problem. In PNC Bank, okay, we diversify. This is intentional. We diversify. So in PNC Bank, we have about 13 million. $14 million sit there. We don't touch it because we don't even have our ledger associated with it. But we track it via bank statement, okay?
Yes.
We have $10 million that we invested. Thank you, Mr. Riddle. We have $10 million that we invested and we reinvest. Now, you probably see that investment report where it goes up, it goes down, we lose, and I get a little antsy because, but once we lock it in, we have a fixed rate, so we won't lose over time unless we take it out, and we don't foresee having to take that money out. So once it matures, we get the full value of that investment, okay? So we're working with Old National Financial Advisor with our investment. So that's $10 million we have sitting there. We have $14 million in PNC Bank, and then we have our regular accounts that's in Old National. So as long as we're not going to PNC, we're good.
Okay, Ms. Polk.
I'm just trying.
I love all of that, that information,
Yeah.
because we need it.
Yes.
Right.
But I asked one pointed question.
What was our balance?
No, the sustainability
Yes.
is how long are we able to sustain
Uh-huh.
the school district
Yes.
with what we have?
Okay. Yes. So let me
3
answer
months,
that.
6
Okay.
months,
Oh.
2 years,
No,
3 years,
No, no.
1 year, what?
Based upon the projections, based upon what we have presented to you tonight, if the revenue is what we're projecting, if the expenditures are at maximum, what
Right.
we're projecting, I put it in the ISB document, and a deficit reduction plan would not be required. Okay? But going into 28, if the assumption is the superintendent's plans would not happen, then we would be depleted. So that's why it's very difficult for me to answer the question, because the assumption is that the district is going to pivot. The assumption is that we're going to make the necessary adjustments in order to ensure that the district remains solvent. And that's why we're presenting the information to you tonight, because we want you to be aware of where we are and what steps that we're taking to make sure that we remain solvent.
And you're making that assumption because that has been our past practice. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ms. Lindsay.
I just have a follow-up question to clarify. So we recently had a handful of positions, right, going back to the salary and reoccurring costs. We recently had positions that were collapsed, and we had positions that were closed. Some of those positions were vacant, so that made sense. Some of them had individuals tied to them. To confirm, positions have been closed, not repurposed, and we are seeing a reduction in the salary projections because of that. Correct?
How much savings?
Let me say it
did
my
we-
way, because I want to make sure that it's understood.
Yeah.
Okay,
Did
so
we-
how we derived at that almost 500,000. I went into FY '25 and I calculated, and all of that is attached so you'll be able to see it. I calculated the salaries of those individuals that were in FY '25, some of whom have left the district. Then I looked at the current fiscal year, at the salaries of those individuals that are currently in those positions. So if you look at '25, I believe it was 14 people. I'm not looking at it, but I believe it was 14 people. Then when you look at '26, I think it dropped to 9.
Right.
Then when we go into '27, based upon the collapse position and/or those positions that are combined or merged,
Right.
then it would drop to 4
Right.
because that resulted in 5 positions that impacted the 9. So the between the current year, FY '26, and the salary projected for FY '27, that's how I derived at the estimate of 500,000.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat back what I heard because I want to make sure we're on the same
Yes.
page. So we went to 14 and then there was 9,
25. We went to
25.
yeah.
Apologies. But then we ended up with 9.
Yeah.
So, okay. So for what the board recently approved with eliminating those 5 positions.
Either collapsing or merging.
So when you say collapse, my brain processes eliminated.
Yes.
Yeah. So those salaries, we are not repurposing in a different department or a different label, et cetera. Those are off of our books, and we are not including that in our salary obligations. And so with what you have estimated, any new position that comes to the board, we have to understand that that is going to be an additional cost to the current process. So that's kind of a 2-part. First, what I said was true, and second, what I said was true. Is
Yes.
that accurate?
That 500,000 approximately would be a part of that attrition cost. Remember, I reduced through attrition to 1.4. It would be a part of that 1.4,
Okay.
right?
So
isn't,
the saving,
Can I say
We're
something
going to
on
be
that?
seeing an increase in the real estate taxes.
Yes,
When will
sir.
that kick in?
We get a part of it in FY '27 and a part of it in FY '28.
Do you have an idea of how much that's going to be?
I think the increase was about a little over $1 million. So we typically get, what is the break? 49%, 51. So yeah, 49% in '27 of that increase, and then 51% in '28.
So you're saying that that total increase is going to be about $1 million?
The total increase is about $1 million, of which we'll get about 49% of that in '27.
Okay, and part of what I guess is also contributed is the fact that the real estate taxes remained level for a number of years too, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, because I think when we presented it to the board, don't hold me to it, but I think it was something like 60 million we're projecting that we lost because it's compounded.
Right, exactly.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Okay, Mr. Riddle.
Yeah, am I correct, though, that the amount of money that we saved with the reduction of those administrative positions didn't even cover the cost of our 4% increase
right,
for non-union positions? That was almost double that.
right.
So, again, yes, we saved some money by collapsing positions, but we didn't even cover the increase, the 4% increase that was given just recently at the last board meeting. So again, I mean, it's just, we have some hard questions to address
Right.
in order to stay, in order to keep functioning, and we certainly want to provide, continue to provide good services and to our children. And so
Absolutely.
but we have to decide how we're going to continue to do that and continue to have money to, down the road. Because we don't know where more revenue is going to be coming from.
That's
The
fair.
climate that we live in is a very tough one.
Yes.
So, yeah, and we're all dedicated as board members to ensure that our children do get good education and that we don't want to lay off teachers or cut programming. We don't want to do that for our kids. Right.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any more? That's the whole presentation. That's the whole
That's
presentation.
the whole presentation.
Okay,
Yes.
And there's other documents we have here as we go through this, the attachment for the very last one here is the F, with the attachment to that is the one that Ms. Polk just went through.
Yeah.
Yes, we always, I sat down, sorry about that. We always attached what ISB's proposed budget is from the state and also from the governor. We always put on here our position control, filled positions only. That's important for us to denote because there's always vacancies. But when we budget for those positions that are filled, okay?
Right.
And then the tax extension, we went ahead and included that so you could see what was extended to the county. And our profile, we showed you, I think it was a 10-year trend, that most of the years in the last few years, we were recognition. And I was surprised, because I said our financial profile went down, and when I looked at ISB, I think we're recognition still. So pat yourselves on the back because in a climate, a fiscal climate like this, for our districts to still be considered recognition is admirable. So
Right.
I wanted to say this. Just because we're in this space right now, God bless you.
Bless you.
Well, I was
Just-
getting ready to run.
Just like we're in this space right now, we're not unique.
Right.
I mean, turn the news on across the country. It's not unique. Many school districts, many profit-bearing companies are having to grapple with this as well. So what's important is for us to strategically come up with strategies to address this,
Right.
to be able to climb above this hill.
Right.
We were able to do this, and I keep mentioning this. We were able to do this when we had $2 or $3 million in the education fund. We had a negative $12 million in the transportation fund. Overall, all of the funds, we had $24 million, period,
Right.
in the bank, okay? So we're not there,
Right.
but we're at a juncture where we have to make some critical decisions. And based upon the strategies that the district implemented at that time, and I'm confident that the district will implement strategies now, is gonna help us to be able to weather the storm. So I do want to also say this, and I know, Ms. Carolina, you had something to say, because I was gonna talk about, I applaud the board's increases for our most important staff. And everybody's important, but I know that you place the priority on the instructional staff. Nothing wrong with that. But again, it was a board's decision to do that. And so because the board made that decision, and that was a $30 million shift because of that decision, that also forces the district to have to make critical decisions, right? So that decision was not just made in isolation. It was made with the concurrence of the Board of Education, with the awareness that if we put the money there, it wasn't going to end there, but every year afterwards, it was going to go up. Right, wrong, or indifferent, we're not saying it was bad, it was good, but we just have to make decisions based upon that decision.
Ms. Fabian?
I w-
So, sorry, since you brought that point up, I was going to actually say something else. But by doing that increase, though, I think it would be beneficial to learn how much we've reduced in sub pay when we're having long-term subs because we cannot fill a position. I do know that Waukegan has become more desirable as far as teachers, you know, when they're out looking for jobs. Our pay does put us up and above, you know, our surrounding districts, which then means we're recruiting more and not having to pay that long-term sub pay or pay outside contracted individuals to come in because we now have a permanent person there. So I think, yes, we all agree that, well, I don't want to speak for everybody. I agree it was very important to do that raise, and we need to compensate our staff for the work that they do. However, there's also a little bit of cost savings in having a return of investment for having those, having that benefit very attractive, for lack of a better word. So then we're actually filling slots and not having to pay higher rates, you know, on the other end. But on that as well, and when I mean also for the sub pay, because you were talking about that, right? We have to put the kids into other rooms, and we have to do all this extra, right? It's also good for our students because now they're not being split up and losing time learning for that day. I mean, it's hard to work off of a worksheet packet that day. But that's not where I was going. I was going to actually more comment to the board. That is, and to admin. When we get those spreadsheets, right, where we have all of those itemized things out, that's why it's really important for us to go through them, because then that tells us where we can look, where is it that we're spending money, where in the past we maybe spent more or less, and we can, that's where we can fine tune and say, you know what, that really isn't a priority of the board. Can we reduce here? Or the priority is over here. Can we increase over there? But in order to do that, it's also very helpful when the administration has that very clear, spelled out on what this is. And I know you do a good job of that, but same even with the school improvement plans, right? Like when we know what the goal is, because you guys are very strategic at doing those, prioritizing those goals, and then saying we're buying this to match that goal, that helps us, but that only works if we're opening and actually going through them. So I think this year we're going to kind of be more going through them a little bit more closely because of that. And that's where we can also find some cost savings, like we'll see some contracts that are not there anymore that were there previously, or we've purchased an app that now replaces 3 and we're seeing cost savings there.
Yes, I love it because actually on that sheet that we give all of those details, there is a column that says what goal it is. And it's lengthy, but we provide all of those details for what is requested at the school level and what is requested at the district level. So you're absolutely correct. And it has a dollar value that's associated with those goals for each of the different areas. And it has who is responsible, what department is responsible for that request. It should be linked. At the last presentation, we gave those details, and I believe it is linked here, but if it isn't, we could share it with the superintendent, and then she could send it out. But we definitely have all of those details, and it ties out to the numbers that we presented tonight. So I thank you for that, because that's exactly what we're attempting to do.
Ms. Lindsay?
I just want to say, as a parent, I definitely experienced less merged classrooms this past school year than in prior years. My kids not once have come home and say, oh, we had to join such so-and-so's class, whereas the year before, it was quite frequent. And that's a burden on the teacher, and it's a burden on the students, right? Yeah, it's I know why what happens. I'm just going to leave it at that. I do want to just give a little bit of caution with Ms. Fabian, your comments, because our job at the board is to approve the budget. So while, yes, we definitely need to make sure we're keeping an eye on those funds, if they've been budgeted and we've approved that budget, we do not have a leg to stand on to say, I think you should be reducing that cost
Right,
there.
but that's after we've approved it. What I'm saying is look at it, we got to look at those things prior to
Oh,
approving the budget.
there's
for
the
that-
clarification.
For that reason.
That's the
For that
clarification, because
specific reason.
what I understood you say was when we're getting those monthly
No.
reconciliation
When she
reports, I
sends
was
out
like, that ship has sailed.
No. When she sends out the big spreadsheet
Yes.
that tells us this is all the operating costs, which, like she said, matches
For the year.
that $1 million for the
Yes.
projected year.
Yes.
Right? They have those all delineated per department, so that we can see exactly what they're spending money on. But
Yeah.
to your point, yes, that's why I'm saying, like, we have to go through them and make sure that the goals are aligning to also what we're wanting to achieve, so that we don't come back later and say, well, yeah, we approved it, but now we don't want to.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same page. It's
another
just
one.
when you
Yeah.
stated
Yeah.
it, it made me picture the other one. So I just
Sorry,
wanted to
no.
be
The
clear.
big,
If it's
massive
budgeted, sorry, guys, that ship has sailed. It's been budgeted.
Absolutely.
We've given our approval to say,
Absolutely.
yes, spend this money in this way.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Riddle?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify too for the public and myself, with Ms. Fabian and yourself talking about the teacher increases that we gave a year ago here.
Yes, sir.
That was a graduated or an equity-based incentive, if you will, or it went, it was 20% for starting teachers. It went less as you went up, didn't it, to sort of, am I correct or not?
No, that percentage was new money to the district. That's how we calculated. We typically give a particular percentage in the sale,
Yeah.
right? And so they get longevity, means they move down. So I don't remember, because, I mean, we're talking about different
I think the question
contracts.
was, though, we didn't give the same percentage year after year, I think is what the question
Not
That-
is.
that's
every
what
right?
teacher
you're asking?
experienced a 20.
Is
Right, because I think
What I
you're
mean is,
saying
did
like,
the
in
start-
year one, we gave a 20% raise, year two, we gave a
But it
4%,
was
et
that
cetera.
across the board for everybody, or was it?
That's why I'm asking.
Oh, okay. I
That's
thought
why
he
I'm
was talking
answering
about
it
how
like
we-
that.
I thought he was asking how we parceled it out.
Yeah.
There was a variance. It was based on giving a larger percent to those who made less
Yeah.
and
No.
and a smaller percent to those who made more. No?
That's how we used to.
Yeah, yeah.
It was all crazy.
And yes, you're absolutely correct. That's how it was, and that's why I was gonna go to 2014, why we had to abandon the salary schedule, because it had, those huge pockets in the salary schedule where
gaps.
certain cells, if they moved down because of longevity,
Yes.
got 10%, whereas those at the top got 3% when they moved down, right?
Okay, so-
So what happens, this is important for the board to understand, very important. When you do a salary schedule, okay, you have to be very meticulous with it, because you're gonna give a percentage in that cell. Let's say they had 1 year. You're gonna give a percentage in that cell of 1 year, but you're giving that same percentage in year 2, 3, 4, 5,
Compounded.
all the way down. So when that, let's say it's a 3.5, in that cell. When they move down one, and let's say from 1 to 2, it's a 3% increase. That means they're getting a 6.5% increase, that individual, right? So that's why it's important for us, when we're really looking at this, to make sure that the step increases are standard, and you don't have a 7%, a 10%. And so, Carolina, you are absolutely correct.
The
That's why we
0.5%
had
is
to
what bothered me.
correct it. Because when we looked at this in 2014, that's why I was going, Ms. Hannah, when you
Thank
stopped
you,
me.
'cause
When
we
we looked at
corrected
when we looked at this in 2014, all right? And I was very glad, because I was transitioning into the role that I'm in right now, so it made me become a student real quick. So when I looked at it, I said, hold on, you know, if I'm giving a 3.5% on the cell, and when they move down, there's a pocket of a 7%, they're getting, you know, a 10.5% raise.
Right.
And it's on the higher steps. So we said, okay, now we can't fix this salary schedule, because to fix the salary schedule, to make each of the steps equal, would take us $10 million to fix it. Okay, so we agreed through negotiation, and then also, you know, I mean, we had a strike. But we agreed, but what we agreed
I
to
was on that strike
do
line.
was
Your
to
conversation at a time,
give,
please.
to give flat increases. 4%, 3.5%, 3%. So what it did for 12 years was to control costs.
Absolutely.
Because we were in a place in 2014 that school districts were going under.
Right.
The superintendent interviewed in 2017, 2018, where Waukegan was one of very few school districts that had 79 days cash on hand.
And
In a
that's what I was
climate-
talking about.
When
In a
Brown didn't wanna
climate-
give us money.
when districts were going under.
Absolutely.
Right? So what we did, the plans we did there, helped us to navigate what we're doing now. So you asked the question, Ms. Hannah, and I'm very cautious about what I say. You asked the question, where did the money come from? 12 years. 12. How did the fund balance go up from 30 million, 40 million, 50 million, 100 million, 120 million? We stabilized increases,
Right.
okay? So now we're in 2024. 2024? 2024. 2025. 2026. And so we want to address what we believe to be salary inequities in comparison to our neighboring school districts. That's a decision, a priority that the district made, good, better, and different. That's not our decision. All right? And so we gave the teachers the 21, 22% raise over 4 years. 4 years, right? Because all of them just blend in my head because we're doing a lot. And then we gave 28 or 29% to the support staff. Good, better, and different, that's not our business. Our business is to make a recommendation to the superintendent, who makes a recommendation to the Board of Education. The Board of Education wanted to do it. We did it. We made the recommendation to the Board of Education. If you make that decision, then you have to look at something else. And no decision is a bad decision, but it causes a reaction. And so here we are today. So in 2024, because of that decision, right, our salaries went up. We saw an increase of salaries of 30 million. It's in the audited document.
Absolutely.
We saw it. Now, on top of that, we see that health insurance,
Yeah.
health insurance went up.
Yeah.
They were trying to charge us for PPO at 18%. Right? And so Mr. Moulton has an outside company that's helping us to negotiate that, and we fought that. We said, absolutely not. We saw zeros and all of that. We need you to work on our behalf with Blue Cross Blue Shield because that's unacceptable. And so they brought it down to 15%, but 15% is still huge.
Right.
So compared, so we saw 15% increase there, and I think it was 11 or 12% with 11% increase with HMO. So we have all of these increases that we have to contend with, stuff that we cannot control.
Would
All right?
Would that be what our insurance is? Because we're still self-insured, right?
For PPO
For PPO
only.
only. Okay.
Yeah,
Only
only PPO self-insured.
Yeah, like,
So, right. So, okay, look, you just threw me for a loop right there because
I'm
I
throwing
thought
for a
all
loop
of
every
us.
time we get the bills.
I know that's right. But, no, I'm thinking that we're still self-insured.
For
That our
PPO.
district is only for PPO.
And it has always been, since I've been here, self-insured for PPO. So it would be PPO, what we know as PPO, PPO for the teachers, and then HSA. HSA.
So we don't even have HMO.
We do. But those are not self-insured.
Okay, I'm going to let Superintendent say a few words before we close.
Okay. Thank you.
First of all, I just want to acknowledge all the hard work and the dedication of our finance team. You guys do an amazing job and work relentlessly to ensure that we are staying on top of everything that's not only moving in our state, but in our nation. So can we just give them a round of applause for all their hard work? Second, I just want to acknowledge our Board of Education, who takes a humanistic approach on how we approach decisions here in Waukegan Public Schools. We made a decision not to raise taxes for multiple years. Was it the right decision? I still stand by it. I think it was the right decision. However, it does cause a reaction. We gave a quality teacher contract, which was another decision, and I ask of the Board of Education to level the playing field for our teachers in Waukegan with those teachers in surrounding communities. And I still stand by that decision. It was the right decision. As we navigate these times, as we did when I first came in as a new superintendent and had to make some very difficult decisions knowing what we had in the bank at the time, and we looked at where we were going to cut. We got through that. We conquered that. We came back out and was even able to save more money as we progressed together as a board. We are here once again because I won't say it's the same circumstance, so please take my words in the spirit that I'm giving them. We are once again facing many variables that are happening in our nation, but also global variables, as we know. And it impacts what happens in the state, and of course, impacts what happens here at Waukegan. We are still in a good position, especially when we look at a comparison of other districts. And I want our staff to know that, because when they look at Waukegan, or you're choosing Waukegan as maybe your next home where you will be employed, I want you to know that our Board of Education has made innovative decisions, has pushed the leadership to ensure that the community could still thrive with their taxes here during a very crucial time when we were facing a pandemic and parents weren't able to go to work. Now we went through another time where we had ICE plaguing on our community, and our parents and our students once again were not able to go to work, go to school, etc. So we've had a number of challenges that this Board of Education has had to navigate. We have survived, we have thrived, and we have been innovative on how we move forward. And as we have in the past, we will prevail once again and come out on top, because that is the Waukegan way. And I want this Board of Education to know that we are looking at places on where we can merge, return on investments. Do we need this? Do we need that? We're doing that cautiously now as 11th year as your superintendent, because I learned in that year of 2017, I believe it was, 18, not to spread mass panic. But we are not living in a bubble, and we understand our reality, and we are meeting on it weekly to have discussions on how we are going to get through this, and we will get through this. I also want to say it's not a either or, but it's a both and. So it's not that maybe we cut in one area, so we shouldn't do other areas. All of our employees are important to this district. Our students cannot thrive without our teachers, without our paras, without our custodians, without security, without administrators. They're all needed to make the system work. And I want you all to know that, and know that you are a valued member of this organization, and not organization, school district. And we value you, and we need you, and we will get through this. And the team, our principals, assistant principals, administration know what the ask is and are rising to the challenge. So we will circle back with the board president on a date where we can come to you and have those discussions that we are having behind, I don't want to say behind, in our offices, and bring you some of our thoughts and ideas that we have already started to implement that you're not feeling. And that when we cut, we should cut where everyone is not just panicking. And I came from a system, and so did Ms. Polk, where every year they were cutting, and every year it was mass panic on who's going to have a job. Am I going to have a job? People fleeing because they don't think they're going to have a job. And I do not want to bring that anxiety or that momentum here in Waukegan. That is not where we are. So on that note, I will turn it over to our board president.
Thank you, Ms. Sensia. And I just want to summarize what I understand, my takeaways from this meeting. First of all, it's pretty evident that the school district is on sound financial footing, just based on all the reports and everything that we see. And the one thing that was very evident to me as we were talking about the way the fund balance was increasing year after year after year, that all happened under this administration, with all of you, all the same players in our finance department working to make this happen, to make sure that the decisions are being made, that the recommendations are being made, keep us on a sound financial footing. The other thing is that just based on what I'm hearing tonight from administration and from the board is that we're all on the same page. We're all determined to make sure that the district maintains a sound financial footing. Also, this does not seem like a time to panic. We know that things are changing in the state, the federal government. There's a lot of questions as to finances, money that we're going to be getting or not getting. We just don't know at this time how it's going to play out. We do have time, but we know that we have to make some crucial decisions. And with us all being on the same page and wanting the same end goals, which is a stable school district so that we can provide the best possible education for our children, that gives me a lot of comfort knowing that with us working as a team, that we're going to navigate through this and we're going to come out of this as strong or stronger than ever. So on that note, I just want to thank everybody who is so dedicated. I'm just listening to all the concerns of the board members, and you know, we all share the same idea, the same concerns. We want to make sure that this school district is going to be able to continue to provide quality education for all of our students for a long time to come. And with that, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Riddle adjourn.
Second.
Second by Ms. Fabian. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 7:44 p.m.
Also, for anyone in the audience, there are some Mexican food, I want to say, tacos in the back if you guys are hungry.